Marlon James is the author of the Man Booker Prize-winning novel, A Brief History of 7 Killings. Though he writes about his native Jamaica, James is an emigre, teaching creative writing at Macalester College in Minnesota. He joins us now for 10 questions on the Jamaican diaspora. Okay, here we go. How many Jamaicans would you estimate have left the country as opposed to those who stay?
I don't know, probably, maybe between 500,000 to 1 million, probably. And then, I mean, the diaspora now is so much second-generation Jamaicans and so on. But I remember there was at one time, certainly by the 80s, there were at least 500,000 Jamaicans just in North America.
500,000 Jamaicans in North America who had left just during that period of time.
Between the 70s and the 80s.
So the major time, in your lifetime anyway, is the 70s and 80s that people left?
60s to 80s.
How come they left?
No opportunities. It's always economics. It always comes down to economics. It's there's just greener pastures elsewhere. There's just there are very few opportunities. There's a lot of poverty. That did not and wasn't gonna change. Pretty much, Jamaicans leave to work.
And where did they go?
Well, first it was the UK quite a bit between the 50s and 60s. Then I think that switched to the States and to Canada.
Jamaica has experienced a particular trend in that women often initiated the emigration, leaving the homeland before other family members. Why was that?
I think because there were more opportunities for caregivers. In fact, one of my characters becomes that in the 80s. There are lots more opportunities for caregivers, I think, for nursemaids, for babysitters, for those type of jobs. They were just a lot more easily employable.
And many sent money home. And I wonder how important those remittances were to the Jamaican economy.
They're still important. It's after tourism, it's the biggest industry. It's not just Jamaica, the Philippines as well. You take away remittances, those countries, or two countries would just collapse. It's hugely important, and it remains hugely important.
One of the things that we have been concerned about in Canada for a long time, given our proximity to the United States, is the brain drain, losing our best and brightest to the U.S. So is that a concern in Jamaica as well?
Yes and no. It's certainly constant, but at the same time, I mean, the Jamaican pool of talent and resources has always been so strong. I worry about it happening again. I think our brain drain happens in waves. Because I think right now we have some really strong, talented, visionary young people, and we're going to have to do all we can to not lose them.
Now, again, using the same comparison, we repatriated a lot of the Canadians who went down to the United States, doctors, people in show business, and so on. Does that happen in Jamaica, where you get return migration?
Not as much as I think it would happen here, because again, the opportunities are still there, and one of our fears as expatriate Jamaicans is that we'll go back to a country that's exactly as we left it.
How do residents of Jamaica regard Jamaicans who have left?
I think they still regard them as Jamaicans. It's the diaspora experience, the emigre experience is such a part of our lives from the 30s, 50s down, that it's just immediate family separated by physical distance. You come to a point, we had got to the point where we disregard physical distance long before the internet. Because it's just a fact of life, but they're still heavily involved. That said, I already see values differing and contrasting, especially if we've lived in the States or North America for a while. We're certainly more liberal than our brothers and sisters on the rock, as we'd say. So there are some emerging distinction in values, but I think the overall connection that we're still family is still there.
There's still no question who the most famous Jamaican of all time is there?
Who, Harry Belafonte?
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, maybe there is a question about it then.
Oh, no, it's Bob Marley.
Of course, I would have said Bob Marley. Yeah, no doubt about it, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the follow-up. Who's the most famous Jamaican-Canadian of all time?
Famous Jamaican-Canadian? That's a good question. It was suggested to me Donovan Bailey, but I'm thinking, who am I missing?
Well, Donovan Bailey would have been he'd have been at the top of my list.
Uh-huh.
But
I'm trying to think of who else?
Ben Johnson?
Well, infamous, sure. Sure.
Okay.
We'll take Donovan Bailey.
I'll bet you.
You can keep Ben Johnson.
Okay. And finally, as a member of the Jamaican diaspora yourself, I wonder if you're following the general election going on in Jamaica right now.
I am following. In fact, I was there last week when it was nomination day. Again, the main concern as an expatriate in my homeland, it's the same concern came up. This sounds like the last election and the one before that. The same concern. Did I just come back to the very same thing? I don't think any of the politicians are saying anything necessarily new, and I'm not sure they have to. But this one is different because it's the age of Tumblr, it's the age of Twitter, it's the age of all these things that no centralized authority can be in control of. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because no one person can control the narrative, and we're used to one person or two controlling a narrative in Jamaica.
Do you get to vote?
No. Well, I didn't register, so.
But as an expat, you're not allowed to vote?
I'm not sure. I think some expats are allowed to vote. I'm not sure. That would, because I think if we were and we took advantage of it, that would be a big game changer in Jamaican politics.
How so?
Well, it depends on so much of the diaspora who left, for example, in the 70s were right-wing. So many people who left after that, I don't even think they were concerned about politics. So, but at the same time, I think the values are different. I think, for example, in Jamaica, I think it can still get very far, pushing a very sort of pro-churchy kind of agenda and those type of values. And I don't think that will work in the diaspora, for a lot of people in Jamaica as well. I just think that it would broaden the discussion beyond what it usually gets, because we get the same discussion every 5 years.
I think most countries are like that.
Yeah.
Happens here too. Marlon, thanks for this.
Thanks for having me.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit supporttvo.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.